So I guess I watched a pretty random assortment of stuff. I'm keeping it here because I can't read my writing too well from this distance for some reason. Maybe because I write like shit. But to begin with, let's see. I guess I did pop in Planet Cuties as soon as I was finished recording last week's video. And it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too spectacular, but it had some really amusing premises to it. For example, the entire idea that the show itself kind of played as if the people in the show knew that everything was absurd. Both humans and cat girl aliens. And yeah. What was the main story about? I can't exactly remember. I didn't expect it to leave a strong impression. I thought it took some okay... It played around a little bit with the harem-ish formula a bit in interesting ways, but yeah, that's what the ending was. It was an intriguing ending. Maybe not spectacular, but an interesting place to end a series without actually ending it. This is not to be confused with, like, say, Sekirei, which ended in a way where a major story landmark felt like it had been encountered or surpassed, and there was more story to come. Hence why there's some interest in a Sekirei Season 3. But for Planet Cuties, just interesting. And then the final episode, or rather the OVA episode, was very different from the series in terms of what they felt they could do. I'm pretty sure they probably censored some stuff from the series when it aired on television, since I'm assuming it aired on television, and because I've seen pictures of people talking about that sort of stuff, and they have been censored. I don't exactly know how they did it in these circumstances, but it doesn't seem as censored here on the DVD/Blu-ray release. And the OVA, of course, is where a lot of that stuff would come out, since they were trying to show more. I mean, it begins with a group of cat girls playing strip mahjong, I think. I'm not sure if that's the right name of the game, but whatever. Anyways, I rewatched Serial Experiments Lain, and I can't help but feel like every time I rewatch it, I feel like I understand it just a little bit better. I'm not sure if this is just because I watched it in my earlier anime watching days, and it's been how I calibrate myself towards understanding confusing anime concepts, or if Serial Experiments Lain is itself just inherently complicated, maybe even not an exact answer. Because one thing I realized watching it is that I had what I think is a coherent idea of what goes on in there, and I feel like the series kind of supports that idea, but a lot of it is going back and forth where it very directly brings up these thoughts, and then it kind of talks about as if maybe they're not exactly true and things are slightly different. And I have reasons for thinking the way I think I do about this series, but I don't want to talk about it too much here in Anime Analysis, simply because, well, I'm kind of hoping that if anybody wanted to watch the series, they wouldn't feel like I spoiled too much such that they don't want to watch it. All I can say is, when I started it, I remembered why it just kind of drew me in. It's because, it's not just because of the mystery of how can something like that be possible, but also kind of this oppression by the technology around us sort of feeling that's just omnipresent throughout that first episode as well as the really strange imagery and way of presenting things that just kind of has you really intrigued. Yes, of course. That's why I have this, because my mind keeps drawing blanks in terms of what I am going to talk about next. And the next thing on the list is Unico in the Island of Magic, which, well, this time I rewatched it partially because I was showing it to somebody else. If I had rewatched it on my own, I probably would have gone ahead and watched Fantastic Adventures of Unico first, because I grew up on Island of Magic, and I really love it. I still really love it. There's little stupid things about it, but I feel like there's an underlying, very powerful message in it that, oh yeah, I read Chris Beverages from, the guy who did, anime on DVD.com way back when, and he moved to Mania.com, and now a third place I can't remember, maybe Fandom? I'm not sure, but he reviewed the DVD, and I thought he brought up a lot of really good points, and the only thing I would add to what he said is he kind of missed this important third dynamic or this other dynamic that's really important to understanding the movie, or understanding the underlying feeling of the movie I'm talking about, and that's he talked about how the movie is quick to introduce the relationship between Unico and Sherry, so that that can develop through the movie, as opposed to the movie working on developing an initial bond in the first place. So that part was a bit rushed, but for the reasons he understood for building up into the movie, yada yada yada. But I felt like he missed the Lord Karuku angle, where it's a three-way relationship between the three of them. What they think of each other and how they interact with each other. And that's what really brings out the power of the movie, in my opinion, because that's what the ending is about. And if you need any evidence that the villain is more important than Sherry ever so slightly, then that would be that he's introduced a couple minutes before she is. And along those lines, if you're going to wonder why the villain is important in Island of Magic and maybe not as much in Fantastic, I would point out that in Fantastic he shows up after the halfway mark, I believe. I'm going to rewatch it to really make sure. But in Island of Magic, he shows up in the first act. You know, when they're still introducing characters. It's like, Island of Magic, the reason I like that one more than Fantastic, well, the real reason is probably just that I grew up on Island of Magic, and thus it really shaped my idea of what kind of story I prefer to listen to and watch. But Fantastic and Island of Magic are very different in that regard. I mean, Chris kind of mentioned this by saying that Island of Magic felt like an adventure, which is kind of amusing considering the previous one is titled Fantastic Adventures of Unico, and I never quite felt like that one was an adventure so much as a series of places that just eventually tied in together. It means that there's more of a structure and a purpose. I mean, there's a part in Unico and the Island of Magic where the characters realize in order to tackle this insurmountable task, they have to travel somewhere, and it plays a very adventurous music that, for me, since I've grown up listening to it, rivals that of of Bastion's Happy Flight from the Neverending Story. So, you know, that was an adventurous song, where it feels like they're traveling, they're trying to go somewhere, and maybe there's some uncertainty if they would get it, but they are going to keep going at it. And Unico kind of has that same sort of music and feel to it. And overall, you know, Unico just has a more coherent story structure in terms of what it's trying to tell, I think. I think there's still bits and pieces, but it felt like that movie matured a bit from Fantastic Adventures. Not that there's nothing wrong with Fantastic Adventures. I think I've talked about this before with Ghibli titles or Miyazaki titles, where he kind of has these two separate things he does. A certain kind of storytelling mechanism where there's a very specific story trying to be told, versus a very visual feelings sort of anime, and the differences between those two would be like between Nausicaa and Totoro. Well, the Unico movies can almost be seen as kind of similar, where Fantastic kind of has just these neat concepts it visits that it's exploring. And I felt like, but I still feel like Island of Magic kind of matured a bit, and maybe is subtly about that idea of realizing when you need to take responsibility, even if you might not be prepared to do it. I don't know. I could probably go on and on and on and on about it, which is why Island of Magic is probably a really good candidate for me to do an anime review, or maybe even rewatch Fantastic Adventures and do a Fantastic vs. Island of Magic review. I don't know. But I should talk about other animes, so let's see. I watched the third volume of Blue Exorcist. I don't even remember when that came out. April. So I've been putting off watching it for about a month and a half. For no reason other than I just keep forgetting that it's on my to-watch list. And I'm actually glad I did because, the series is paying off. I probably I don't know if I talked about it this specific way, but I've kind of watched it feeling like it's delivering some interesting, entertaining things in the present and was maybe going to deliver. And now, Volume 3, I feel like it's beginning to deliver along those lines. And that just, makes it very entertaining when it feels like a series is fulfilling something that you were kind of wanting it to. I don't want to talk too much about it since it does spoil stuff, but needless to say, I think it ended at an appropriate part where there was a lot of reveal and tension in this third act of this series, I guess. And the fourth volume will be hopefully the finish or the end of it, or maybe it will finish or end something and make the fact that there's no more of it, as far as I know, not big deal. And then there were two little OVA things. I don't remember what they're called. But there were two of those little mini episodes, and they were amusing, simple little things. I think I've talked about them before, as doing funny things, and yeah. Otherwise, the other two things I watched were not complete watches of anything. The friend I was watching Occult Academy with, we rewatched the final episodes that he hadn't seen. That would be episodes 8 through 13 and the 4 mini episodes. And I thought it felt like it kind of escalated kind of quickly towards its reveal. Like it was rather sudden when it's revealed the main thing, but it was kind of clever in just how much it ended up revealing in terms of, there were some things that I predicted, but other things I was wildly off on. That the series just kind of threw so many curveballs at you at once that it was hard to predict them all. But overall, I was kind of satisfied with rewatching the ending and rewatching the 4 mini episodes. And then I rewatched the first disc of Katanagatari. I'm leaving that intentionally vague because I did say some things to some people that I don't want them tying to certain events. But basically, I just felt in a mood to rewatch some Katanagatari, maybe rewatch all of it eventually. I don't know, I'm playing that by ear. But the truth of the matter is there's just this kind of appeal to it where when you put it on the TV and those subtitles are scrolling by, it's kind of hard to look away. Because something about it is just clever and stimulating. I think I had some thoughts along the lines of why that might be. It's because I was thinking it could be because our main two characters are not very realistic characters, but they're intentionally so in ways that make what they say, why they say it, how they say it, play off of each other really well. And then of course that episode, which is pretty awesome. I never even paid attention to the preview first time, and that was hilarious. So I should probably recommend it on the DVD collection subreddit so that maybe I can convince Charles to watch it. Anyways, that's all I watched other than the Avengers movie, which was awesome, and Dead Alive, which was disturbing but amusing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of gore in that, but it's somehow tolerable because it's absurd in the way it's doing everything. Like, it's hard to take it too serious, I guess. But there's still some... But yeah, other than that, no other anime that I can think of, other than maybe rewatching the ending to Unico and the Island of Magic a couple dozen times, and yeah, I'll just end anime analysis there, and we'll find out what I'm going to